everybody.
Morning.
President Small and Councilman Penn are both out of town today, so I'll be chairing the meeting. Feels like old times in some ways. But welcome to our rainy Tuesday meeting this morning. Lisa, go ahead.
This is the pre-meeting of the Wilmington City Council, Tuesday, March 15th. We have a request for a waiver of the village ordinance on March 19th, 2 p.m. until 6 p.m. in Melville Park, and May 7th at the Glen Mitchell Mansion from 7:45 until 11.
No issues on
Public hearing today is a public hearing to rezone property located at 4230 Hallsville Road from B3 to I1.
Scott?
Going back to appeals, we might want to hold it since that's in May for the district women. We may want to hold that over till the board is back.
Did he say anything to you about it?
No.
Since that's his district.
I sent him a note this morning to see if he had any objection to any of that, and heard back from him.
Normally we do it until 11 over there, but, you know, we can certainly hold it over, it's not until May. See if you hear back from Cory.
Okay, between now and then.
Public, any discussion on the Hallsville Road?
No.
Okay. Public hearing to declare the structures at 963 Donald Street, 1818 Indian Creek Drive South. And on that one, it's just the carport, and the shed house secured, demolished and secured.
Indian Creek,
Yes,
yeah, it's on, District 1.
right, 3352 Dolphin Island Parkway, and 714 Iris Avenue. And those are the businesses or they're demolished.
So we have a problem with it?
I talked to CJ, he's fine.
And CJ said this too.
Madam President,
David?
the one on Dolphin Island Parkway, I just want to present the council with additional information. The owner has an active permit, and they're actively working on that one. I wanted to table that one permanently. And the reason why is they're finishing the roof work and the framing has been replaced. Our building inspection department is monitoring, so I just want to let the owner have a chance to finish the repairs.
I don't think CJ would have any problems with this new one.
Who's the owner then?
I'm sorry, I don't.
Javon Taylor,
It's-
Charles is the one telling.
It's in the packet.
Madam Chair, Mr. Dawson standing up, we could have him comment on 40-033 Diamond Drive.
Yes, and I believe this is one that was held over from last week, and then we had a previous holdover. The owner of this property is in the process of brokering a sale. And the owner has made the intention, or let us know the intention is to repair the home. However, they have not begun any permits, applying for a permit or any active work on site. So at this point, I do recommend that we go forward, declare this a public nuisance, because the problems still exist. There's several holes in the roof, but also the carport is in the process of collapsing. Once it's declared, then municipal enforcement will have a chance to work with the new owner, should that occur, and have the house repaired. If not, then we'll move forward with the demolition of the structure if there's no action pending any possible sales.
And my preference would be to move ahead, as Mr. Alphenbaugh has indicated, and go ahead and declare it. He will continue to work with current owners, the future owners, but if we delay it again, then we'll have to re-advertise. So my preference is to go ahead and declare it.
You know, we did the other one, District 5 too, right, John?
And Mr. Alphenbaugh, have you heard from anyone on 714 Iris?
This one had a permit several years ago, back in 2019, to repair the roof. And regretfully, they have not begun the repairs. There was a bankruptcy that delayed our action. However, the bankruptcy has been discharged. So right now, due to no action, and it looks like a tree may have fallen on the roof, and part of the roof in the front porch is collapsed with the exterior all separating. We do recommend that we move forward with declaration.
Thank you.
Presentation of petitions and other communications to the council. Mary Mars, regarding, dissatisfaction with work done on our house by the city.
Madam Chair.
She was supposed to be here, I think it was last week, and didn't come. Did she call again to?
She did, she was confused because the Mardi Gras holiday, so she called to sign up again.
And I think we talked last week about this, that she had hired someone to, because of the way the program works, she was able to hire the contractor to come in. So the question was, is this anything that is the city's responsibility at this point? I don't know if Jamie or anyone is here to respond, or will be at the meeting to respond to her.
We can, so what you just said, Madam Chair, is correct. What we did was, the city took the bids, and the contract is between her and the contractor. So this is not work that was let out, and this was part of the District 2 housing program, that $300,000 or so that Councilman Manzi could set aside for housing improvements, so you can either get a roof or a external paint job. And so Ms. Morris chose the external paint job since her roof was okay, and that's her complaint is with the contractor, which was not let by the city. That contract is between her and the actual contractor.
Bid by the city, though, correct?
3 bids by the city, that's correct.
And the contract, what type of contract was
It's the paint, it's just a general paint
it?
job.
What type of contract was it?
What do you mean?
Was it an AIG 7? I mean,
No, no.
what was it?
No, it's just a general services painting contract.
And it named the owner as responsible party?
It would have to. I mean, I can get you the contract and let you see it if that would be helpful.
I mean, Mary Morris is an extremely intelligent businesswoman. And she wouldn't come exact unless she's read everything in that contract. That's why I'm asking. I haven't read the contract, so I'm hoping someone else has.
Is this in that program, was this something that the city took the bids and selected the contractor?
We did take the bids and make the selection, and then the contract is between the owner and the actual contractor.
I guess the question is, how well is it spelled out that any issues within the contract itself is between the contractor and the homeowner?
Right. And the city's not a party to the contract itself, but we can get it to you, and you can look at it yourselves.
Well, when she's here at the council meeting, if you would be prepared to answer questions.
Hang on, we're about to go through this again, right? We're advertising right now for roofs.
That's correct.
So can you get me, without me sending 10 emails, can someone get me a copy of the contract, please?
That's reasonable. We should be able to get that to you. That shouldn't be a problem.
Well, then, I think it's a follow-up to what Mr. Carroll was saying, with the ARP funds coming in, it would be good for us to see what those contracts are, what they actually include, so that the people who are getting the work done better understand exactly what their rights are with these.
The reason why I'm asking is instead of Alabama to bid a movement owns the contract, not the person, not the building. So if we're bidding for a contract or bidding for work, then we own the contractual services that we've done to the property.
That would be true, but not with our HUD funds, not with our federal funds, not with this program. But typically that would be true.
I'm not saying Mayor Morris might be unreasonable, but just for future purposes, with opportunities coming forward, I'd just like to know what you're doing.
That's reasonable. Yeah, we can get you that.
Madam Chair,
Mr. James?
where was the money for this coming from? Was this from Councilman Manzi's CIP allocation to, so this wasn't ARP funds or
Right,
community
correct.
development block grant funds? This is CIP funds.
That is correct. That's CIP funds.
Wouldn't have been held to this one.
But it's the same, we use the same program, is what I'm telling you.
Use that program. So what you're saying is you gave money to HUD for HUD to administer to the city?
Absolutely not. That
So
is,
then it's city money, not a HUD funded program.
right, but we use the same programming. It was what, I can explain it to you clearly, okay? And this is what I'm telling you. The same department uses the same process. I wasn't telling you that this money was ARP money. because I specifically said this was the $300,000 that Councilman Manzi set aside. What I'm telling you is we're using, I don't want anybody to go under the misconception that the bidder always owns the contract. It's very different with this
But
department.
you used the acronym HUD and said that under HUD rules.
Yes,
Is what you said.
yes.
So, but HUD has no ruling when the money belongs to the city when it comes out of CIP.
That is correct. That is correct. But we use the same process here.
Yeah, but if we use the process, then again, the laws of the process will revert back to the clear money and not to HUD rules and HUD law. So you just told me that HUD law.
No. Listen, what I'm telling you is, this contract is between the owner and the contractor. And the only reason that happened that way is because this process is run by the same department.
You know, I would totally be in favor of getting an RDA and an LDA outside the city and funding it and letting it run these types of actions where they're standalone, nonprofit. That way it takes us clearly out of the picture. Because right now there's some gray. And what we're doing is we're giving our owners the opportunity for missed, or if something falls and breaks a window, to say that the city has not engaged in it. It's gray. And I keep, from my understanding, your understanding, even though you may be 80-20 and I might be 20-80, you know, there's some gray there that owners aren't gonna see and we're gonna continue to face if we possibly proceed in the same direction that we have in the past. It's just something with that. Let me see that contract, if I can.
Megan Huffman, from Carnival Cruise Line, regarding the 50th anniversary. And she may not be here, like, it's not supposed to run until later, so we may have to call her during the next.
Just keep an eye out for her. Lisa said that her flight may be delayed, so she may not be here at the top of the meeting.
Who's like?
Megan, Carnival Cruise Line.
Darlene Martin, Timothy Hollis, Greg Harris, Betsy McMillian, Reverend L.C. Green are regarding redistricting. Ordinance is held over. 64010, is rezoning property located at 1451 Cedar Crescent Drive from R3 to R3. 64011, rezoning property located at the southwest corner of Zip Boulevard and North University Boulevard from R1 to B2. 88012, ordinance authorizing acquisition of real property, lots 1 and 2, Municipal Park from Moss. Consent resolutions held over. 40033 is declaring structure of public nuisance at 456 Elmwood Drive. Resolutions held over. 60173, authorize council president to enter into a retainer agreement or a contract to review the reapportionment ordinance.
You know, I might just push this back. We never had time or consensus on a committee. This is for, plus we have to do something. Y'all's budget.
I'm gonna be abstaining from all votes pertaining to this plan.
You said that before. But still, yet there hasn't been a committee meeting on this question by, I believe it was CJ. So we can hold it over, bring it back, still have a committee meeting on the day that we can all agree to. We can go through a process and one of us put it back on the agenda.
60197, authorize the council to hire a consultant to perform and provide a racial polarization study.
So we've all agreed to it, but we still haven't had a committee meeting, so what do we want to do? No comment?
Well, I don't think it was agreed to, I think we agreed to hold it over, so, you know, Bob was here today.
It was assigned to the, administrative services team, right? So when it's assigned, that's saying we're still.
I think it's got, we only have 5 people here today, you know, so it's just, it's where we are, so you have to go through the motions of somebody else putting it back on or all that, then that's just what we have to do. That's my opinion.
Anybody else?
01-217, authorized member of Alta Point Health Systems for evaluation work on the fiscal year 21 collaborative crisis response training program. 01-218, authorized member of Cargo and Associates for William Square fountain improvements and site amenities. 08-219, approved purchase order to Alabama Pipe and Supply for concrete median barriers. 21-220, authorized contract for Alabama Power Company for service in telemetry technology, deployment, networking, and software.
Madam Chair.
Mr. Reynolds?
Last week I had raised some concerns I had with this, or just lack of knowledge about it, really more so than anything else, and requested that I be read in or have some additional meeting time on this. We haven't been able to have a meeting at this point, so I request that we hold this over 1 week, and allow for that meeting to take place.
Maybe that's supposed to check. We're gonna play those games.
Alright, so you want to play this over for a week?
Yes.
Make a
I'll make
motion.
the motion now.
62-21, approve settlement agreement and release of claims. Ordinance is being introduced. 64013 is rezoning property located at 4230 Hallsville Road from B3 to I1. Consent resolutions being introduced. 31-223, authorized grant application to the Daniel Foundation of Alabama for arts, culture, and community assets grants, $190,000, a local match. 31-224, authorized grant application. And 225, 226, 227, 228 are all authorized grant applications to the Verizon Foundation, the Gulf West National Maritime Museum, Alabama Law Enforcement Agency, the Homeland Security Grant, U.S. Department of Education, the Alabama Career Center, U.S. Department of Education, the Alabama Career Center, Department of Health and Human Services, Substance Abuse and Mental Health Services Administration, First Responders, Police Protection, and Recovery Grant.
Madam Chair?
Yeah, I think there are some questions on these, but, before we get into those questions, I just wanted to mention that we have a lot of these grants, and I love getting money, that comes into the city. I know we have to deal and work very hard on these grants, so I just wondered if, Jimmy or Mayor, if y'all could point out the people who work on these grants and make them happen, and, it seems like we are being pretty successful on, getting these grants as well.
Yeah, you know, Laura Engel and her group are responsible for applying for all these grants, and they are very, very successful in obtaining.
Lauren is here. Lauren, can you stand up so that everybody can see who you are? There's Lauren.
Yes, my question is really about, this 31-228, substance abuse and mental health services. This grant in particular, is what it's about, what it's for.
Laura, you want to answer that?
Sure, so,
Can you come up front so we can all-
So this grant would actually pay for funding for the purchase of Narcan, which is a naloxone distributive, is an ingredient that would allow for first responders to administer this drug that would allow for overdose victims to receive it on the scene when actually EMS is not allowed to be able to get there in time whenever first responders are there. If EMS is not on the scene immediately, they could administer the drug, as well as having police or fire, if they are exposed to it, then they can actually have that themselves to be able to administer to other first responders. It also pays for training for those first responders as well, so they can learn how to administer the drug. And there is a Good Samaritan law that's in place that holds them harmless for no liability.
Okay, perfect, thank you.
Mhm.
not a question, but a comment, just echoing what you said. I mean, I've been involved in the grant process and grant writing, and it's very extensive. So, you know, and these grants that you're applying for are highly competitive nationwide in many cases. So to be successful at that level is a huge testament to you and your group. And, you know, I'd like to know how much money and grants we've gotten over the course of the year. Because we give all sorts of bonuses, there should be one right here. So, thank you.
Anybody else? Thanks, Lauren.
Hey,
Wayne?
how much more debt service do we have on Marathon? When's it expire?
Gulf Quest,
Yeah,
we have one more payment to make,
what's that date?
end of the year,
Is that December, or is that?
December 31st.
So it'll be in the next budget cycle?
Yeah.
It will not be in this budget?
Right.
What's the amount of that payment?
400,000.
That's not the,
That's the Gulf Quest.
yeah, but that's the short-term debt associated with it, not the long-term debt.
What's the long-term debt?
I don't know.
Is there a long-term?
Pretty sure that.
Oh,
Yeah,
I thought that we'd be finished paying that place off this year, right?
no.
No. That's, so we're talking about two different things. And so that 400,000 deals with the security interest that those, I think it was 9 banks, 9 or so banks, and then us dealing with them.
So we're talking about the construction of the building.
No, that, the other amount is the construction, and I don't know what that amount is,
We can
but,
find out.
but we can find out.
Is that, we're talking about exhibits, or we're talking about actually releasing more?
The first is dealing with the exhibits and the security, the non-secured loan, that 400,000. The latter, the number that we don't know sitting here at this moment, is dealing with bricks and mortar. And that's I guess a longer, more complicated answer, but we can get you the number.
I'll check it before the next meeting.
As we
Check
start
it right
getting
now.
closer to going into budget, and we'll discuss this with President Small, but get together with the finance committee just to go over a lot of these things, these big ticket items like golf questions and others, just to bring everybody up to speed on where we are, what the debt remains, and any other issues that we may see coming forward.
You know, as long as we're gonna be digging into this, it'd be helpful to know when my recollection is that the clawback provisions diminish over time and at some point terminate. If we could get kind of update on that, that would be helpful too.
Okay.
And also going forward with your finance committee meeting, and you all may have some other ideas and suggestions, but to give us a better idea of what all the departments are going to be looking at, what their needs are going to be, where we are, providing the revenues that they think they're going to need, are we going to have a raise included, and all those kinds of questions that will be coming up, just any way we can better prepare ourselves, before we actually get to the budget.
37, 229, 230, and 231. I recommend approval to the ABC Board for issuance of a special events retail license for Liquor Star Lounge for Sipping Paint at Cooper Riverside Park for issuance of a lounge retail liquor, class 2 package store license for VIP package store on Dawson Island Parkway. The issuance of a retail beer, table wine, off-premises only license to VIP Food Mart on Dawson Island Parkway.
Any comments from any of these?
Were any of these the ones that you emailed us about yesterday, Lisa? Okay, thank you.
Everybody okay with these?
40, 230, 233, 235, 234 are declared short of public licenses and are abolished. 58, 236, 237 are authorized removal of weeds and assessing costs for removal of weeds. Groups 16, 25, and 16, 20. 60, 238, and 239 are determined appropriations to officiously him and her King Foundation and Murphy High School
Madam Chair.
Mr. Jones?
Yeah, on 6239, I just want to say thank you to my colleagues. I was reached by one of the instructors at Murphy High School, and they have an JROTC team that has the ability to compete at the national level and represent the city there, but they were short about $3,500. So I reached out to my colleagues, and through their support, we are going to fund their ability to go compete at the national level with their JROTC team. So thanks to my colleagues for that.
Anybody else?
37252, recommend approval to the ABC Board for issuance of a restaurant, retail liquor license to T. Marie's Restaurant. And this is what we have.
Were we able to get an answer to the legal status of any background issues with this one?
On 252?
Right. Is that something we can do before 10 o'clock? Normally we get a background check on these issuance of liquor licenses, and with the issues we've had in the recent past, I think it would be good for us to follow the process. Is that possible?
I've talked to the, I mean, we'll check, can you check on the background? But I talked to the owner of this, and so the restaurant is up and running, and it's across from the Little Flower. And so it's it's a restaurant, so they're really getting a wine license, and so, but I don't recall any issues concerning this particular owner.
All right, thanks. Can't have it tell you with that wine, right?
That's right.
Resolutions being introduced, 01240, authorized approval, Alabama Department of Transportation for sidewalks on Ocean Road, $250,516.
I think this is one of our former colleagues was waiting on for some time, so it's finally coming to fruition.
01241, authorized amendment with owner and artist for JBG Sculpture Inc. to create, fabricate, deliver, and install all things sculptures not to exceed $1,183,716.
Any questions?
Yeah, I do have one, Madam Chair. Just what funds are being used to purchase these?
This is the downtown TIF funds, the tax incentive fund.
Okay, thank you.
And,
Then,
One other thing, part of it is private money too from Cantor, $150,000.
from who? Oh,
Campbell.
Campbell.
And there'll be another probably contribution or two that would offset that before the statues are completed.
same company or a different project?
There are different people that have indicated an interest, maybe sponsoring the statue at that same level. So we'll continue to try to raise money, as long as the people want to give it.
Yeah, I mean, there's,
Yeah.
the county, we love to have them as partners.
Yeah, that's right.
As you mentioned. When did the TIP funds, when did those expire? So we're up against the wall with some of this funding, aren't we?
August 30th of next year,
Okay, August.
2023.
Gotcha. Okay, perfect, thank you.
Any other questions?
Just a comment here as well. I grew up watching Hank Aaron play baseball when I was a kid, so it's neat to make this come to life in Mobile. So fully behind it, there's a lot of money, but with how it's being handled, I think we can all agree this is a great thing for Mobile.
Anybody else?
01242,
Buddy, did you have?
No, Ricardo looked at me, I guess he's waiting on me to say something.
Go ahead.
authorized rights of way, use agreement with MCI Communications Services Inc. doing business as Horizon Business Services.
Any questions?
Little explanation on that one.
That's a franchise.
Oh, yes,
agreement.
yes, franchising, yeah. It's our standard franchising.
Hang on. Any other questions, Joe?
No, I'll just follow up with discuss.
Okay.
243, authorized bidder for Populous Architects for a Blue Ridge Master Plan at the Mobile Civic Center, $161,500.
I imagine this one is going to get a lot of notice, from the public, and the media. Ben, go ahead.
Yeah, my question, I guess I got two things. Number one is how did we arrive at Populous? How did we come up with them? I don't think this was a no bid deal, I believe. And I think we've got some local contractors, local architects here that, were they considered as part of this process?
Yeah, so to answer that question, we arrived at them really because they've just recently completed a project. Well, first of all, they're probably the world's premier design firm for arenas, stadiums, and the like. So there's really only 2 or 3 really good ones that do international type projects. They recently completed the BJCC in Birmingham, have recent experience with an arena similar, different size, but so that's how there was not a bid or selection. So we're trying to get someone who specializes in just this type of facility.
Okay, I've received a couple of calls about the capability of some local firms that may be able to tackle this for us, and giving them consideration, I think, is important to the city. Let's put them, help them get on a stage where they can say, just as this Populous has said, we just did the BJCC. Now we can go out and get other contracts and other work. So I think that's important to their consideration. Secondly, is there's a board for the Civic Center currently in place. Were they consulted with this, or have they seen this contract?
No.
No, okay. I'd like to give them the opportunity to have a look at this, but then also, and specifically because in the contract, part of their scope of work, they're saying they're gonna do all these things: Civic Center walkthrough and goal setting, review current building programs and operations, identify with city and Civic Center staff goals for the future of the Civic Center. The board should be, I think, have some input into that, but it doesn't say it, right? They're not, okay, so it doesn't say it. And then as you go through this, you can see there's several opportunities for this board to be included in that process. And I think it would be, this board hasn't been operating, I think, very well here recently.
The board's been active for a year and a half. I call it as
Yeah.
That's exactly right. So this is as good a time as any to get this board back up and running and playing the legislative role they should be playing. Otherwise, the board's really not doing much of anything. So I guess this is really a call to action to my fellow colleagues here, more so than anybody else, to say, if you don't have anyone appointed, get them appointed, and that way we can start having the legislative answers we need by them being involved in the process. So I've appointed 2. Mr. Jones has appointed 1 recently, and I think in the December meeting I've requested that everyone appoint someone as well so that we can have them involved.
Well, my preference would be to step back and take a look at the ordinance that created this board and look at what powers and responsibilities they have, and we either change it or we don't. But my preference would be go ahead and do that prior to prior to appointing new people to it. Because I want to, again, there's no sense having the board unless they have a real function. So what is that function? We need to go back and look at it. I think.
William, did you have anything?
Yeah, I don't think that board was enabled to handle the city-owned asset itself. I think it was more designed to handle some of the operations, the contracts, and selection of entertainment venues. I can't remember, but I think I sat on that board one time ago, and we never handled anything when it came to this type of action. The second thing is that the Civic Center is a city-owned asset, correct? So we actually own the building outright. The board just operates within the building for the actions taken inside the building. So when it comes to professional services, I would think that would be the choice of the administration and the council. I didn't know that there was not a RFQ submitted to consultants to pick from. But in my mind, I'm kind of looking throughout the city for consultants. I don't think there's a consultant in the city that has actually done this type of work that would be able to check all the boxes when it comes to an RFQ to qualify. I don't know who reached out, but maybe there may be a partnering opportunity there. But I think this phase of what we're looking at is only an opportunity to find out what we're going to be looking at. So there's 4 steps in progression when it comes to restoration or redesign of the structure. We're just right now doing an exploratory investigation to find out what we really need to do. Once we do that, we'll be able to write a proposal or an RFQ, which then solicits the consultants. So we solicit consultants after this phase. We don't have the person in-house to be able to determine the magnitude of what has to happen there. So we're paying for that service right now. I think that's what they're trying to do.
Mr. Carroll, I'm sorry, go ahead.
From experience, I also think that the number that they're using is kind of shallow too. They may need some contingency fees in there based on what happened under the Jones administration. When we did a study under the Jones administration to see how bad the building was, and we came up with a loss, I think it was $500,000 a year that we're going through with the council work over there. We actually did the same type of thing then, but never acted on the renovations and corrections to the building. So if we had taken that process then, put what we found into an RFQ, and then went out to the public for a consultant, we'd probably be somewhat money ahead right now. So I don't see a reason to slow this down. I hope all of you have looked at the financial statement from the Civic Center also and compared to some of our other facilities, because I thought we were gonna have this conversation too. You know, we have an asset over there that's losing, it has a depreciable asset debt every year, somewhere around, what, $300,000 to $400,000 a year. So we have an asset that's losing value every year. So at some point, we're gonna have to do something, tear it down or renovate it. I've got the same position on the Civic Center that I did last day. I want them to both stay. I mean, I think that they're treasures to the community, and we need to do something for that.
I don't disagree with, Chair, I don't disagree with Councilman from District 2 that we should in fact take action. No doubt about it. I think this is a step in the right direction, but understand that this is the development of the master plan, according to the contract. Mobile Civic Center master plan. That's what this is. So, what this produces to us, we should all assume is what we're going to use going forward. Now, it may be modified in some way, shape, or form, but if we want they're gonna take comment from all these groups, they're gonna, get involved, they're gonna try to come up with a master plan that works for everyone, so that it is, in fact, the plan we can use going forward. Now, it may generate something that says it's gonna cost us $200 million to do it, and then we'll put that against the previous plan that was before. All I'm saying is that as part of creating a master plan, if ever there was an opportunity for an appointed board by the Civic Center to be involved, this would be it. This would be the opportune time for us to take the legislative action we need to revise the ordinance, to change the scope of that board, whatever we need to do. Now's the time to do it, and then interject them so that they're helpful and useful, so that we have, when we do roll this out and make a decision as a city what we're gonna do, we're gonna tear it down or we're gonna renovate it or whatever, we have been inclusive of all parties. Legislative, people's view, all that sort of stuff, so that or we can do it with clear eyes and conscience and say, this is what we came up with, this is what we all agree works, and then we don't have, you know, this group or that group or all these other groups jumping up and down saying, well, you didn't include me, or you didn't consider what I said. So that's my point of it all.
What I'd ask is, agreeing with both here that were spoke on this, is that, you know, we continue to move this forward so that we can get this firm engaged to have this feedback with whether the board, the other groups that are heavily involved in this, of which we've, you know, talked to several already. So that would be good if that, you know, in other words, we don't delay to wait to get the board appointed and all this, so we could move that forward and still, by the time you get them all on board, that they can link up with this firm to be able to move forward. The other piece I'd ask is, you know, inadvertently, we put the base bid amount on that, which is 161.5, based on the additional services that we may, and the board may want to get out of the contract. I'd ask that we set that on at 200,000, just to give us some flexibility to allow for, if the board or anyone in the group says, well, we'd really like to see this, and that wasn't included in there, so we just put the base bid. So that's the only other thing I'd ask, is that we just adjust the dollar value to 200,000, at least to go up to allow us to go to that point.
Following up on what William had talked about with, years ago, when, under the Sam Jones administration, when some surveys were done and we looked at what the needs were for the Civic Center, and this is years ago, so things have changed, but I'm sure you all still have that. And Populous, I would think, could use what they already looked at.
Correct. Yeah, so I've got those. We've already provided those to them to review, just as an initial, when we first engaged them. That's saving us a lot of money. The fact that we paid for these in 2017, 2018 is saving, otherwise they would have had to perform that same assessment. Because we're able to hand it to them, even though it's 5 or 6 years old. Well, this one's from late 2017. So these were done in late 2017 with cost estimates. At the time, just the deferred maintenance and to bring things up to speed then was a little over 20 million, and that was in 2017 dollars.
That was to do everything under the sun that we would have preferred to be done, to make it, you know, the kind of citizen that we'd like to see today. I'm sure with all the deferred maintenance, but.
That was just to do things that were needed to get it back up to speed, not to.
Right. I mean, I'm not talking about renovations like we're talking about now, but yeah, just to get it back up to speed. But, and also the things that have been done in between, the improvements and repairs that we've had to make along the way. I'm sure we have that to add it to the report.
Hey,
William?
just, what's the size of the building?
Square footage wise?
What size of the auditorium?
I'm sorry?
The size of the auditorium?
The arena itself is, it's a total of, let's see here, square footage wise, 400,000 square feet. Total complex, the arena holds 10,072 people.
So if I'm understanding you correctly, Colonel DeLapp, that for the additional services or the optional additional services, you're saying those optional additional services will total approximately $28,500. Is that what you're saying? When you say bump it up to $200,000?
I don't know, I mean, you know, but we just didn't want to box us into that lower number so that we had to come back again if we wanted to do something else. It's just giving us a little flexibility.
I understand the purpose, I'm just trying to understand the purpose with the scope.
Yeah, you see.
Once we say yea or nay, this.
Yeah, you see the list of optional services, and I don't know what the board or what we may decide afterwards. We might say, geez, we'd really like to have something else that they or another consultant could perform under that contract, and that would be helpful to give us that flexibility.
How many seats are there?
10,000.
10,000 seats?
In the arena.
In the arena?
Yes.
And then it was, just saying out loud. Is this, and I don't know how many I can open it up right now, but are we considering this in conjunction with future possible development of the site?
Yes.
Will there be a partnering agreement with the development of the site?
I can't speak to that right now. We don't know. I mean, this really is looking at the existing 3 buildings, 3 structures, the arena, the theater, the expo hall, taking the condition assessment, and envisioning and giving us a cost estimate, so drawings, a conceptual design, cost estimate, and schedule for construction. If we were to do a full renovation, like they did in the BJCC or any other arena, what would that look like? What would it cost? We've never done that. We just know what the deferred maintenance report is, and we know if we took it down, what that plan would look like. This gives us an option to look at, and as a city, make a decision.
One last thing, would the consultant or the writers of the proposal should include, when I was a kid, there was a natural pathway from the front door of the arena to downtown. It went through Spanish Plaza into the heart of downtown. That pathway has kind of been obscured with the lessening of redevelopment downtown, but also the two buildings on the corner. And there was a restaurant, I can't remember when it set right there when we got downtown, but Tom's Olives and everybody else was active. It'd be nice if we can assure or ask them what that pathway, but also we can consider some type of plan to go from that front door downtown, where there was a major event over, and encourage people to walk those few blocks and try and entertain.
Mayor?
Yeah, so you go back to kind of the beginning and going back to Councilman Reynolds' comment was about populace or about putting this out for bids. You know, one thing that we recognize is that whatever we do, the Civic Center is going to probably be the largest single expenditure that the city undertakes in the 12-year period, let's say, that this administration will have been here. Not knowing what that expenditure is going to be yet. But we know this, that with operating losses that have been incurred forever, you know, with the Civic Center, other than maybe when it was first built, we wanted to know, what is it, if you renovate it, what other bells and whistles or changes can you make that possibly create a revenue stream that you don't have today? Because it's going to come back to what can we afford to do. And so Populous, according to their, the profile of that company, their marketing information, and if you deal with ASM, they will tell you that Populous has a huge footprint looking all across the country, maybe even international, but I know across the country, on what other venues are doing and what the options are for arena-type civic centers. And so the idea was not just to go in and say what it's going to do to fix HVAC, but what can we do with this structure that maybe we could tweak it, change it, so therefore it would be suitable to do, again, something different for a different revenue stream. That's why we chose Populous. We didn't think there was anybody locally that had the expertise to say what those things were because of not having, you know, a national footprint. And so the other thing I would say also is these things take a long time. And my experience is you don't stand up any board in any aspect of our society and it come up to speed and becomes a functioning board, you know, where they have the ability to really have impact. That's why over the last 2 months, we have met with Church Street East. We have met with the Mardi Gras organizations. And as you're talking about these people saying, why didn't you meet with me? We've met with the restaurateurs, telling them this is the direction we're headed in. So I'm not opposed to, certainly it's the council's prerogative to set up a board, but I think that that board is going to be the voice for the community. I think that depends on how long you want this process to, how prolonged you want it to be. But just keep that in mind that I think that we're on a shorter time fuse than a longer, simply because of how long it takes to get things done. And I'd hate to see us get caught up in, 6 months of trying to get a board up, 4 months to get a board up before we start moving forward.
But you said,
I have a follow-up. If we approve this next week, how long would it be before Populous came on board and started working?
Well, their schedule, I don't know exactly, but it wouldn't be very long. They sent us this in January. They're anticipating it getting passed soon. Their schedule to do the work is about 12 weeks total, so about 3 months. Their schedule's listed there 12 to 13 weeks. But it would probably be, I would say 2 to 4 weeks before they would probably in earnest be able to get going, just to coordinate it and put it in their schedule. But they anticipate it coming.
And so they would bring the team on site. and
That's right.
start. Could any of the council members who are interested meet with them or maybe even do some of the walkthroughs just if it's possible?
Absolutely, yeah, they've got that scheduled in, put in their timeline here to meet with those kind of groups.
Including the council members.
Sure, whoever we decide, board, council members, other action groups like the mayor already mentioned.
Yeah, I'm sorry.
Hang on, Joel.
I'm in, everybody that's spoken has made good points. I'm in favor of moving ahead with this item next week. I think we can move ahead on parallel courses. I'm also in favor of looking at the ordinance, and I'll be happy to participate in that or not. And reinvigorate forward. I think all of that can move ahead at the same time along parallel paths. You know, if there was an easy solution to this, we would have arrived at it by now. It's a very difficult problem, and but I think it's one that we've got to address. We need to be moving forward on. Thank you.
William, did you have? Go ahead.
I was just listening. It doesn't get any easier. I don't, in my mind, this is the type of stuff I look at all the time. The concept is one thing, the end result and what it's gonna take to get to the end of the road is another thing. How we're gonna pay for it. You know, we got a study that's gonna cost us roughly $200,000. I'm in favor of adding that $28,000, by the way. But the cost of renovation is not gonna cost us $5 million. The cost of renovation might be $60 million, $70 million. Cost of a new stadium might be $4, $5, $10 billion. So it sounds like to me, if the administration is willing to go this far, it sounds like there might be a future bond issue somewhere in this idea. It's gonna take bond issue to vote this. There's no way we have that amount of money reserved. So there's a whole lot of thinking that's going on right here if they're serious about saving this. And, you know, and right now, while we have an aggressive penny sales tax that has been increasing year after year. When you look at the projections, it might be a good time to consider taking on this total project from start to fruition while we have a resource that can help us do debt service on it over a lifetime.
Yes, what was the Cordish plan total? What was that gonna be, the burden on the taxpayer?
There's no
We just never
cost.
came up with that.
There's no cost.
Okay, but the idea is we're gonna compare the two, right? Well, right now, there's not, we're not gonna have a Cordish cost to repair, to compare to, is that right?
No, we don't.
At this point in time, we do.
No.
Well, you know, David was a great guy. I love him to death. But guys, I mean, I couldn't support a plan that takes away from the downtown entertainment district. So I think this would be a better approach than the Cordish approach. Especially considering that we just had 2 years of COVID. We barely had a restaurant district down there with seeing the type of revenue that need to go into it. They don't take away from it.
Anybody else?
Madam Chair.
Scott?
Yesterday, I saw an ad by Breeze Airlines. I don't know if anybody else saw it. They started 36 new routes. Flying New Orleans, they're flying to Huntsville, they're flying Jackson, Florida. And they're flying over Mobile. There's been a lot of organizations like that that skip over Mobile. And the only way that people find out about Mobile is when we reach out to them. The successful cities that you see don't have to reach out. They have people reaching out to them, asking to come in and be a part of that city. We don't have that yet. One of the reasons we don't have that yet is you drive down this interstate and you look right and you see a wart on the end of our nose called the Civic Center. We've been talking for many years. The problem is it stops at talk. And there's been no action that's happened as a result of those discussions. What I'm hoping is that through a team approach and a partnership, which I think is what we're all hearing, we can come up with a solution on something that looks right and will be a positive addition to the city where it attracts attention to the city. I think in a very short number of years, had we had the airport here, had we had the Civic Center reconditioned, reformatted, and looking like ones do it at these other cities, when you drive by and you say, wow, this city's got it going on. Breeze probably would have made a phone call to the mayor and said, I want to come into your city. That's where we gotta be. It takes investment to get there. It takes vision to get there. It takes teamwork to get there. It takes partnership with our private organizations as well as our city organizations to get there. I think this is a path that it has to happen. And I hope that we have a very open, transparent process, as I've seen in other things with regards to this administration. I would love to see our local engineering firm partner with this firm. We see what happens when you don't. You sort of lose the new wheels and history that is this city. We can't afford to do that either. So, you know, I'm excited about this. I think it needs to happen. I appreciate that it's sitting before us today, and I'm 100% behind it. But let's not let it just be words. Let's turn it into action and get this thing going.
I think at this point, we are ready for some action. I mean, I went down to New Orleans with a lot of the Mardi Gras groups and met with people in New Orleans along with the mayor. I was here during the Jones administration looking at what to do with the Civic Center. This has been something that we've been looking at and trying to figure out how to resolve for years and what will work best for the city. So if we can start making something happen, the more the better.
Madam Chair,
Go ahead.
one last sentence. I do solemnly hope that this same type of love and vigor and attention is shared when it comes time to help Last Day.
Anybody else?
08244-245 are approval purchase of the city government for network security and event management software subscription to $24,199.55, and for government for antivirus software subscription $49,020. 08246 approve purchase order to UJ Chevrolet for damage repair for Chevrolet Tahoe $17,819.75. 08247 approve purchase order to Mighty Light for chairs at the Arthur R. Outlaw Convention Center, $630,000.
That's a lot of cheers.
I don't think that the chairs, it don't appear to be all that expensive, actually. It's $100 or something a chair. It's just that the quantity, I mean, I guess when you have a convention center as big as ours, it takes 5,000 chairs.
Right. And they get a lot of use compared to.
31-248, authorized grant application to the State of Alabama Department of Conservation and Natural Resources for the Alabama Coastal Area Management Program, $50,000, 1-1 local match.
Madam Chair, on this one, there's just maybe an error here, but on the 20% match of $83,000, it's listed as 13,000. I think it ought to be 16,000. Change it 16,674. Oh, this is it. Okay. All right.
Any other questions?
Does it reflect?
Next week, they're working on that.
Call for public hearings, 41-249, call for public hearing to consider a certificate of public convenience and necessity to Edwards Automotive Louis Estimator transfer to operate sedan service, scheduled March 29th. 41-250, call for public hearing to rezone parking located at 30-39 Pleasant Valley Road from R1 to R3, scheduled April 12th. 41-251, call for public hearing to rezone parking located at 400 Hamilton Boulevard from I-2 to I-1.
Is there someone from Mobile on this one? This looks like a down I-2 to I-1, it wasn't clear why it would go from I-2 to I-1. Does anybody know that? Scott, you know?
It was, they said that they're gonna sell and rent modular trailers, and for whatever reason, that's not allowed now too.
Anybody else, any announcements from the council? All right, is everybody then at 10:30?
Well, no, I'm just saying it's a lot. Yeah, I know, yeah. What you gotta do.
That'll be the next meeting.